the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up, it's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything. All it takes is some time and some clarity to find your identity. It's mind over everything. And when I feel like this, I'm immortal. 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 Don't stop, just level up.
What is going on, you beautiful, beautiful people? Welcome back to Knock TV Live. I'm your boy Knock. Had a, really, really slow morning. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if the economy is just tanking. But I'm gonna have to rethink my work schedule and maybe like morning work here on YouTube will become more of a routine thing as morning work out in the real world becomes less of a practical thing. So how are y'all doing today? I wasted about 2 hours of my morning already. So I was going to make a couple of videos using what I'm going to watch today. And I thought, you know what? I've got a couple hours. Instead of making a video, I can do a live, and if I choose to, and I probably will, I can cut a couple videos out of the live, right? And for anybody that's going to join right now, and we'll get into this, Taoism itself promotes one step at a time. That is the path. That is Wu Wei. So as of right now, well, that just changed. So whoever joined, welcome. But I was the only viewer, one step at a time. However long that journey takes, you only look directly in front of you. So today, I've been talking a lot about, Taoism. Philosophical Buddhism is in there as well. I'll save that. I want to be more prepared for that. Taoism is not something you need be prepared for. What's up, Theo? Good morning. This is a coffee with Naka. Although, like, all the branding is changing. Geo Sam does all of my, intro work, the video clips that he all the video clips that I have for my intros now. I used to make them myself, but Geo Sam took it up a level. He makes all of that. He does it for me for free just because he's one of the OG viewers. I just asked him if there's a place that I could send people to him, because I know people have asked me, about Geo Sam's work. So he does all the work. He does it for free, and he deserves all the credit for that. Because he didn't have to do that, and it kind of I don't have to do that, right? Like if Geo Sam didn't do that for me, then I would have to use what technology I do have, and he's better at using that kind of technology for that kind of thing than I am. And I would make the kind of intros that I used to make, like clips of me, pawning Christians or being funny or whatever, right? You know, during the Smokey Saint era, it was all Smokey Saint intros, right? So, Geo Sam saves me from that, you know, and he kind of puts some more professional quality to it, and he deserves all the credit. And I need to start like shouting him out more for that than I do, because I get hyper focused. Yeah, he is an OG. He is definitely an OG. So, you know, work kind of sucked this morning, and I'm like, you know, I'll just go home and make a couple videos, because I've only got one video in the cut. The Brett Cooper is bearing Trump a time traveler video. And, you know, like, I completely redid that video to make a shorter, sweeter, funnier video. And instead I made a longer, duller debunking video. So, and I'm settling with it. I'm not going to do it for it. It would actually be a fourth time. I'm just going to settle with it. Put out another 20-minute video, one step at a time. This is Taoism. So, you know, instead of making 2 videos, I figured, fuck it. You know, I've got to roughly, I mean, really, if I pushed it 11 o'clock at the latest, because I usually if I do a full work day, I do 3 shifts. You know, I start from 6 to about 8 or 9 in the morning. I go from 11 till about 2 in the afternoon. And then I go from 4 till about 10 or whenever I want to quit. And I kind of fluctuate that whenever the fuck I want. I don't do it whenever the fuck I want. I love it, right? So, instead of doing 2 videos this morning, I'll just do it live, and whoever joins me, and you know, like what the fuck does Knock mean? He's an atheist and a Taoist and a Buddhist at the same fucking time. I think I thought I'd start to kind of clarify that, and I found an actual video that kind of really explains it really well for me. You know, I've been thinking about doing this stream for a while, but I wanted to script it, right? Like, and I don't like doing scripted shit. For one, everybody knows, like, I look like I'm reading when I'm reading. Yeah, I don't have that uncanny talent that a lot of people seem to have. And most people, they have like a teleprompter. They invest money in a teleprompter, and that makes it easier. But even then, if I had a teleprompter, you would see me reading it. I don't have that uncanny ability to not look like I'm reading, right? So if I do scripted videos, what I've always done is I do really short takes. I have to be able to memorize it exactly, which is usually only 2 or 3 sentences. So you do 2 or 3 sentences, cut. 2 or 3 sentences, cut. You know, like, and that gets really arduous for me, right? I end up doing 150, 200 takes to get a fucking video, and it's like, no, I'd just rather be off the cuff. If I need facts, have them in front of me to draw from. All right, let me relight my cigarette. So one of the tenets of Taoism is kind of a physical health, and that I'll be very open about that. As I get there, I need to be better at. Now, I have taken a lot of steps to improve my physical health. This is something that needs to go away again, and you know, the only way for me to really do that is to step out of it, and so that would be to step down to vaping, and then do what I couldn't do the last time, stop the vaping. But it is part of the path, and you take one step at a time, and and regressing is part of that path, right? Like a Taoist accepts there is no past, there is no future, there is now. What's up? It's going to be really hard to say that. We'll call you Clue. What's up, Clue? Not this morning, I don't. I will be doing that at least once a week. I just got to figure out the best time to do it. And I don't know, like I've been talking, I am looking at Restream. I'm probably going to run with Restream. It's cheaper than StreamYard, and I think it's probably better than StreamYard. Right now, but until I decide, and I'm going to take a long time deciding because I've got so many other priorities, I'll just use a free version of StreamYard and do it kind of how I have it set up now. And I'm going to do it at least once a week, but this morning it's just more of a coffee and chill. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I mean when I say I'm a Taoist now. But definitely I will try to, when I do those, definitely I will try to like promote them or you know, get them up so people know, like, at least have some time, hopefully, to draw some people that want to speak. Because my heart is, especially coming back new, back when I was doing it all the time, if I was doing an open stream, I could usually start with 4 or 5 people, right? And it would usually fill up fairly quickly. And then 10 people just becomes too much. Everybody's over talking to each other. It becomes chaos. And that's going to even happen with 6. But, I want to keep it to a minimum. I don't know like the structure that I'm going to work with as I'm doing it. But I want to keep it to kind of like fewer people. Maybe keep some people in the background, rotate people in and out. So it's more of a congested conversation that's not so much over talking. And then, like really kind of getting sterner as in the moderator role than I've ever been before. I know like Skylar got frustrated because Jill was just going on and on and on and filibustering and it, just talking and over talking everybody. So, get stronger in the moderator tone to take that away. And if like Jill doesn't, instead of giving Jill so many chances before I finally kicked him for the shit, like, bro, you're out for the night. Come back when you're a little more sober or whatever. Yeah, more than 4 people is a mess usually. I agree. Yeah, I highly agree. And the problem with that also is I have a lot of friends that I haven't seen in a while. So I'll have to do streams to where like I do expand it out to like 10 people to where all the friends can come in and we can have that friend chill time. But have those focused streams, those conversations be, probably 4 max. I agree. I think 4 people would be a good number. And if I wanted to take it to 5, then I would kind of have to remove myself to more of that moderator role in those situations. Fill in when I need to fill in to be one of those people. But then again, also like it's not TV live. So do I want to go that route? Maybe I bring in a 5th person to be the moderator. I don't know. I'll have to consider all those options. But today it's about Taoism. Sorry about yesterday. Yeah, shit happens, but I'm not too worried about it, man. Not too worried about it. What's up, NA? What's up, Marty? Today is about what do I mean when I say I'm still an atheist. I don't believe in any gods, but my spiritual center, kind of what I try to practice, is Taoism. And I intentionally say Taoism, right? Like you can pronounce it Taoism. I say Taoism, which is usually considered the westernized pronunciation of the term, and it's probably precisely for that reason. I first became aware of Taoism through the Tao of Pooh. It's a beautiful book that I highly recommend everybody read at least once in their life. Even if it's an audio version that you can listen to for free here on YouTube, I highly recommend everybody go listen to it. It's a great book. It's a beautiful book, especially if you were a fan of Winnie the Pooh. It kind of explains Winnie the Pooh in a way that will make a lot of sense to you, and in a way that will help you learn what Taoism actually is. Because like a lot of people practice Taoism in a very religious way, right? And that while the yin and yang wasn't originally like a derivative of Taoism, it was quickly incorporated into that school of thought. Once I think it was in the Han Dynasty of China, when they really tried to condense what they called their 100 schools of thought down into these categories and record them historically. So a lot of schools got kind of condensed together. Yin and Yang, as well as I think it was like the School of Knowledge, got condensed into Taoism. A lot of people practice a religious Taoism. This is not what I practice. I will fully admit I practice a westernized version of a philosophical Taoism. And religious Taoists are going to tell you that there can be no separation of the two. It is the yin and yang. And the yin and yang is often misinterpreted, right? Because it's interpreted as light versus dark. But people forget about the little eyes in the yin and yang. So there's light inside the dark, and there's dark inside the light as well, right? Basic tenet of yin and yang. And religious Taoist will tell you that there can be no separation of two. I believe it was the yin is the philosophy, the yang is the religion. I could have those two turned around. I call bullshit on that. I have the free will, throwing that bone to Christians, to choose what I follow, right? To choose what I accept. And a lot of people get really, really fucking woo with it. And I'm not trying to make fun of nobody here. I'm just saying this will never be me. This will never be my form of Taoism. Like you see, like I couldn't even watch the shit. I done watched it once. I'm like, nope, not me. Not me, bro. Right? They incorporated into their martial arts. Now I practiced martial arts when I was a kid, when I was a teenager. Not my type of Taoism. I'm not into that. I do separate the two. I take the yin and yang as a philosophical, I guess, allegory for the human condition. We are all good. We are all evil. We are capable of brilliant stratagems of hope, and we are capable of great atrocity. So no intention to make fun of a lot of the woo shit. I'm just saying that's not my Taoism. So I had come to a point in my life to where I was at a crossroads, right? I had grown comfortable in my skin to a degree, but I had a lot of pressures around me, people in my real life that were demanding for years that I change so they could feel more comfortable about me. That fueled my alcoholism and the problems that I was having on YouTube with people like Smokey Saint, Matt Powell, Will Kincaid. All of these things kind of fueled my alcoholism, leading to a nervous breakdown to where like I literally was having hallucinations and literally losing my fucking mind. Physical problems had led to me just basic financial ruin. I was losing everything. Trying to fight and hang on, and I had to let it all go. I had to let everything go, and I had to really start looking at myself again, looking at my faults, looking at, what do I need to do to improve myself as a human being, as a dad, as a father, and I've got a long way to go in those regards. But as a human being. And so I started looking at some of the older philosophies that I used to get into, started looking at myself, started doing a lot of meditation. And eventually I came to Taoism again. And I was able to find a path again. But like a lot of people don't even really know what Taoism is or what I mean when I say Taoism, what it means to me. And I did find a video that kind of explains it. This Hip Hughes dude seems to like really come at it from a place that I might come at it from. So we'll check this out, and I'll kind of make my commentary along the way how this applies to me. Both the description is in the link below.
Hey guys, welcome to Hip Hughes History. As we're going to hit you up with another world religion. I don't even know if it's a religion. I don't even know what it is. I don't even know if I'm allowed to make a video trying to explain it without violating the central features of Taoism, also pronounced as Taoism. I do know that it's over 2,000 years old, and I do know there's over 31 million people that call themselves Taoists. So let's see if we can't figure out a little bit of what it means to be a Taoist/Taoist as we go giddy up for the world right now. So unlike other religions that we have gone over, this is not a dogmatic religion. A dogma means a set of beliefs, a set of rules. There are things that you can do to be in this religion. It's not like that at all. In fact, it's the opposite. Now, 2,000 years ago, the Tao Te Ching became the foundation of Taoism. It was written by Lao Tzu, and he was, in a sense, a philosopher who was
Lao Tzu.
writing down these ideas which really came before him in oral histories. But talking about the history of Taoism or the rules of Taoism is just kind of nonsensical, because it is up to each person to find the Tao, the way. Tao literally means the way, the energy of the universe, the path of the universe. And the big idea, before we get into some of their basic beliefs, is that if life is a river, if the universe is a river, that you are no different than the river. You're not swimming in the river, you are the river. And that if you try to get in the way of the Tao, in the way of the river, that you're fighting that current.
It's such a beautiful explanation, right? What is the path? What is the way? I've had people ask me that since I've come out about this, and I couldn't explain it any better. I am the path. I am the way. If the path is a river, I am a river. If the path is a very narrow beam going up a mountain, I am that beam. That is the path. That is the Tao. If there is a universe, I am that universe. My perception forms it. Right? Couldn't put it better myself. Right? So when I was sitting there in the months after my nervous breakdown, trying to deal with, I had seen this like demon inside of me. Right? What does that mean? What is that? And it took a long time, and I'm finally to a place to where I can fully look at it as something that wasn't real. But it was real in a sense that I was having a self moment like no other self moments, right? I was coming to this place in my life to where my brain was no longer capable of keeping up with reality. I was getting in the way of myself. And it reflected on my channel. It reflected in my everyday life. It reflected in my psychosis that I had going, that I couldn't work these physical jobs anymore, which is a reality. You know, what I do now is nowhere near as physical as what I've done throughout my entire life. I mean, just the perception of weight gain. Once you gain a lot of weight, and I'll never lose this weight again. You know, that thought is just getting in the way of taking that first step towards losing that weight again, right? And that's what Taoism is. That's what the path is. And that's what I had to realize about myself, was I was getting in the way of myself. I was allowing all of these outside pressures from my family, from comments on YouTube, friends that I used to have that I don't even have anymore. All of these pressures about how I was the problem. And to an extent I was, because I was causing problems for myself. And once you accept what you are and who you are and your path, that you are the path, and that path is fine, then all of those outside pressures no longer matter. They become fainter than whispers. They become insignificant. And once you understand who you truly are, and you stop getting in the way of yourself, you start taking just one step at a time again. Things do start falling back into place. You know, and you got to be ready for the stumble. You got to be ready for the fall. Because part of this reality is it's not an easy sail. It's not a smooth sail, not even for the richest people in the world. Who is calling me? Spam risk. I wonder if I'm gonna answer. Stop it. Like nobody should be calling me. But it's all about knowing your place and not getting in front of yourself. What is the Tao? I can't tell you what the Tao is. But I can tell you what I am. I can tell you my path forward. Right? And we're going to get into a little bit of Wu Wei, the art of inaction. And it's not inaction by like doing nothing and just being lazy and a sloth or whatever. It's just stop getting in your own way. You know, a lot of times on this channel, I would drink myself into a place to where I felt I was free to be uninhibited. I was getting in my own way. Because the only way to be uninhibited, to be authentic, to be genuine, is to be free of worry. The moment I stop worrying what other people think or what other people are going to say, the moment I can just be myself, well, that's freedom. And that's the path of Taoism.
That's going to cause disbalance, disharmony in your life. That their number one philosophy for most Taoists is
true Stoicism,
which means action by non-action, by not trying to,
turn on true Stoicism, not the fake ass alpha male Stoicism that people try to portray as Stoicism today.
Fight the characteristics of who we are, of our own intuition, of what comes in front of us, of not dwelling on the past, of just being in the flow of the universe, to be with the Tao. They believe, number two, in simplicity, that it is just best to be simple and not to overthink things and try to figure things out. They believe, number three, in being spontaneous, that you too are react with the situation in front of you. Life unfolds moment by moment, and it's best to be in that moment and not to think about the past.
Yeah, and that's always one of the reasons. Is something that I've always kind of taken from Taoism, even when I left it behind in the past. It's one of the reasons why I often struggle with scripted content, with being too prepared for these things, and it's why I'm often like kind of chaotic with these things. I believe in of being spontaneous, and that was another thing that was like just getting in my way back in the day. Is I had allowed all these people to, I don't know, instill a sense of caution in me, right? And that's what happens when you surround yourself with a bunch of woke scolds that want to point the fingers and create bubbles. And then you find yourself inside of a bubble that you can't get out of, and it's just a roadblock in the way of like what I was doing to begin with. Like the thing about my channel, and the thing that had my channel blowing up was that I wasn't some know-it-all fucking wannabe scholar trying to be nice. I was just an authentic dude, blue collar working class dude that just didn't believe in this fucking bullshit. And along those ways, along the way of that, I had this overblown ego because I had all these really smart people telling me how I'm really smart when I'm not. I'm just a dude. I'm just a dude. Eyes open, able to see, but I'm just a fucking dude. I'm not anything special, but you start to get in the way of yourself. And what do you know? My channel didn't stop growing because I became a drunk on my channel. I became a drunk on my channel because my channel stopped growing. And that's the pure and simple truth of it. Did I have my moments? Yeah, I had that drink and stream with Will Kincaid back in the day, but that wasn't the focus of the shit, Yes, I was drinking to get myself to a point to where I can be uninhibited in the way I was talking to Christians, but I was trying to keep it mostly off of stream. No, I started drinking on stream because the channel fucking died. And that's, you know, one of the things that Taoism does for you is you can look at your own bullshit. You're supposed to. It's the core tenet. Look at your own bullshit, know thyself. If you know thyself, then you can move forward. And if I don't truly have the ability to call my own bullshit, then how can I call the bullshit of others?
And not to think about the future. That's why there's
What's up,
very
Sammy?
little discussion about God in Taoism, because that, like Tao itself, is undefinable, indescribable, and it's just kind of a fool's journey to go down that road. That when you go down that road, you're separating yourself from the river, you're getting in the way of the Tao. So there are Taoists who believe in gods, and Taoists who are atheists, and Taoists who believes in many gods. There's Taoists that are Christians, and Taoists that are Buddhists, because like I said before, it's much less
After this video, we're going to be watching a video of somebody trying to... somebody that's going to ask the question, was Jesus a Taoist? Was he promoting the Tao? And notice in this entire explanation, we haven't gotten what is the Tao, you know? And that's... The thing about the Tao is that you can incorporate everything into it, right? Everything is the Tao. And the problem with religions is they're just trying to explain the Tao when the Tao cannot be explained. So you're trying to confine something that cannot be confined. You're trying to put a human spin on something that isn't a human concept. It's just the way of, you know, the way. Take it to a universal level, the way of the universe.
Of a religion and much more of a way of life. And they believe in three energies. They call them the three treasures. They believe in sexual energy, spiritual energy, and emotional energy. And it's about being in tune with these energies by non-action that allows you to be with the Tao itself. And of course, there are many influences that Taoism has had on other religions and other things like martial arts and astrology, feng shui, Chinese medicine. Sometimes Taoism is said to be the opposite of Confucianism. In Confucianism, there is a rigid structure order, that there is an expansive way of doing things, of rules, of social order, of class, that it is not good to be spontaneous, that it is to follow your elder, to worship your ancestors, to do these set of things in order to achieve happiness, where a Taoist would say that's ridiculous. The way to be happy is to be spontaneous, to live simply, to live action by non-action, and to accept the path in front of you. But at the
Yeah, that's it exactly. Like, the Taoist doesn't need fancy things. You know, the Taoist doesn't need yes men around him. You know, be simple, live simple. That is the path. Because when we try to complicate things, that's where you're going to find that chaos. That's where you're going to find those roadblocks. Keep things simple. Move forward.
end of the day, remember, the Tao means the way. Sometimes you'll see the yin-yang symbol that kind of symbolizes the major concept of Taoism, that there is always light and there is always darkness, that there's always male energy, that there's always female energy.
So again, there's always light, there's always darkness, but within that, again, don't forget about the eyes. There's always light in that darkness, and there's always light in that darkness, and there's always darkness in that light. You know, and as Americans, often, especially like Christians, they'll just kind of laugh off these, you know, these philosophies as silly. But this is just basic knowledge we all have that we just maybe don't even admit to ourselves. Certainly don't like to admit to others. That we're all capable of both. See, we want to be good. Society says, be good. That's a roadblock, bro. We are human. Be human.
There is the spirit, that there is the earth. And not only is there dark and light, but there's light and dark and dark and light. And the universe continually spins with these always being in correlation with each other. That's the way. But again, this video violates Taoism because I am explaining it from my own perspective. You have your own perspective that might be completely different from my perspective. Taoism means going with...
Another thing that makes it like just super uncomfortable to kind of speak of it, to sit here and do a stream, and why I kind of keep putting off those streams, is because, yeah, like, to try to explain the Tao or what the Tao means to me, or how do I try to incorporate the Tao into my personal journey through this existence, is kind of to violate the Tao, right? Like, I don't need you to be a Taoist, because you already are. You just don't know it. You haven't found yourself, you know? And it doesn't, you don't have to claim the title of Taoist to be Taoist. Just know thyself. Know thyself truly. The good and the bad, the clean and the dirty. Because none of us are squeaky clean. And very few of us, probably none of us at all, are just covered in filth. We're all quagmires. Every single one of us, even the worst, even the best. We're all quagmires. And that's the truth of existence. That's the simple truth that once you accept it, you can take that first step forward and nothing else really matters.
The flow of life, having non-action in your life, accepting what is, not dwelling on the past, and not trying to figure out the future. Just living your life, being happy, being kind to not only others, but it's very important in Taoism that you're kind to yourself, that you accept your flaws, you accept your history, because it's supposed to be. It's the Tao. And what's most important is you deciding right now as you're watching this video, what are you going to do right now? That's the very basics of Taoism. If I made it any simpler, I don't know how I...
Yeah, man, live inside yourself, you know, like, just live inside yourself. Don't be indecisive with it. Accept who you are, accept what you are, and move forward, right? I could have continued to be indecisive. Well, you know, like, maybe next month my car breaks down, better not start streaming again now, or you know, now I found a peace within myself, don't feel the urge to change the world anymore. But no, like, changing the world, whether I do it or not, that's a part of who I am and my path. It always has been, it always will be. And I have to accept it. I have to accept that I am going to be sitting here doing this. I have to accept that I'm going to be thinking or writing to try to make my impact. And once you accept that, then my dad telling me that I'll never do it, or my brother scorning me for trying, or for not trying hard enough, or, you know, my mom passing away before she could fucking see me ever do it, none of that matters. Me actually achieving it doesn't matter. It's liberating. It's liberating. Yes, my car might break down. Yes, I might. My computer might take a shit, and I started doing this again for nothing. But then I'll just take that first step towards getting a new computer. I'll take that first step towards fixing my car. You know, it is life. It is my existence. It is what I must deal with. and the liberation of that. A Christian can argue, well, you know, me finding myself within Christianity gives me justification to go and point the finger at this group and say, hey, my Bible says you shouldn't be, right? That could be a Taoist justification. And I would say no, the Taoist in you, if you think Jesus Christ is your path, then take that path, but that is your path and yours alone. You don't even have to keep that journey to yourself, but you are not the guider of other universes, my friend. See, I don't have to change a Smokey Sane anymore. I don't have to change a Matt Powell anymore. I don't have to try to make them me anymore, or have my politics or my views on the world. All I have to do is be within myself as I look at them. I love Taoism. And that's what I mean by, and I'm not done with this video. I forgot there's like a part here at the very end I want to check out as well. It's kind of like his wrap up. And then we'll get into like Jesus and Taoism, because I find that fascinating that some people have already started looking at that. I would argue all forms of a religion are just an expression of the Tao, a bad expression. I guess a blaspheme of the tenet. You know, the Tao is trying to understand the unknown. You know, like we've always tried to understand the unknown, right? The Tao is the lack of trying to understand that. So when you try to understand the unknown, when you try to understand the Tao, and you try to put a face to the Tao, and you try to put a name to the Tao, and you try to put tenets to the Tao, right? You are conforming divisions in the process of doing so. You are taking away from just the simple truth that, yes, there are things that we don't know, and we don't have to explain those things. All we have to do is live within ourselves and try to be the best version of ourselves. The good and the bad, the dirty and the clean. And that's what Taoism means to me. And that's how I can be a Taoist and an atheist. I don't need to believe in a God. I don't believe in a God, first and foremost, right? So I can accept that about myself and move on. Well, I find myself fascinated by religious texts, and of all ilk. I focus on Christianity, always have, but like religious texts of all ilk fascinate me. I can accept that, and I can move on. It's a beautiful thing. He does wrap it up really well, so I want to listen to that. Once he gets there, all right? Or is that all black screen? All right. Did I miss the wrap up? I must have missed the wrap up. Yep, there it is.
So we'll end this with two phrases that are very popular in Western culture that come from Taoism itself, that having less is more, and that a journey always begins with a single step. Don't worry about the journey. Worry about what's in front of you right now. Now again, there are 7 billion ways to be a Taoist. I've only given you one. Maybe you should leave yours down in the comments below. So I'm going to say it because I say it at the end of every lecture, where attention goes.
All right. So yeah, that's pretty much how I go about it, how I look at it. I have my Tao Te Ching. I usually open it, once or twice a week. I'll take a sentence, a phrase, a passage, and I'll try to apply that to my week. You know, how does this tenet apply to me, the human being, Ronnie Tate Nakasuchi? And it's a beautiful book. I've done it before on the channel. You can just pull it up, pick apart, read apart, and apply it to you, and it will. It's a beautiful book, written 2,000 years ago, over 2,000 years ago, still applies to this very day. All right. So, is Jesus the Tao? This is a video I have thought about making 1,000 times over the last 9 years. Because if you take the red words in the Bible, there is an argument to be made that the rabbi, the historical person that this thing is based off of, might have had some access, might have been introduced to some Eastern philosophies. And I think it would be very probable. We're talking about the Roman Empire. Yes, China was secluded, but there were trade routes. There were. I think it was possible that a rabbi in Jerusalem would have had access to maybe some Eastern philosophy, maybe some new radical Eastern philosophy, and try to implement that into his work. I think it's possible. And I think that, taking those red words, you can do that cherry picking thing probably, and make a Taoist argument. So this guy, his video is really low. Now, it would have been one of the advantages to making a video about it. So if I do cut it out, if I do cut a video out of this section of the stream, I should be able to turn his audio up if I clip it right. So yeah, his audio is probably going to be a bit low, but he's going to talk about this concept: is Jesus preaching the Tao?
What if, when Jesus said, "I am the way," he was talking about the very same reality that the Tao Te Ching calls the way?
Marty, yeah, if you remember, DM that to me and I'll try to look it up.
John's Gospel begins with a profound statement. It says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." The Greek word here for word is logos, and in ancient Greek times, the logos is the underlying principle of order in the universe, the rational structure of the cosmos. The Tao Te Ching, written centuries earlier, begins in a strikingly similar way. It says, "In the beginning was the Tao." And then in verse 25, it says, "There was something formless and perfect before the universe was born. It is serene, empty, solitary, unchanging, infinite, eternally present. It is the mother of the universe. It flows through all things, inside and outside, and returns to the origin of all things." Already we see resonances here. Both the Logos and the Tao both talking about what was in the beginning, and both of them pointing to a source that the flow of life comes from. And John's Gospel...
Now, I did watch most of this video. He seems to come at it from a point like this is kind of maybe what he's adopted, right? I don't know. And again, I think that you can make this argument if you just look at those red words and you kind of cherry pick them. You can make this argument. I don't know. It's been a long time. I think I'm going to maybe do a video, do a live, where all I do is read the red words, right? Read the words of Jesus, because it's been a long time since I've done that. Like my Bible focus has been mainly Old Testament, especially like Genesis, right? So that would be interesting to just read the supposed words of Jesus Christ and compare that to like modern Christianity and maybe some of the things that they believe. I think that would be very interesting. But I take it that this dude is probably a Christian that really enjoys Taoism, like we just heard the last guy say, there's Taoist of all ilk, right? And this is probably a Christian Taoist, and that's kind of the vibes that I get from him.
It doesn't stop at "in the beginning was the Logos." It goes on to say, "The Word became flesh and dwelt among us." For John, this Logos, the underlying principle of order in the universe, was revealed in the person of Jesus. But if the Logos is the underlying principle that flows through all things, then Jesus cannot be its only embodiment. He is simply the revelation, the window, or the mirror shining back at us, showing us the truth that was there all along. It's the same Logos that animates all of us. As Paul wrote, "Do you not know that..."
And yeah, Sammy, I find myself agreeing with his points as well. I think that if you look at it, at what religion is trying to do, it's trying to explain the mysteries, it's trying to explain the unknown. And the Tao is simply the unknown is the unknown, right? And so yeah, like it's very easy for, like, I would say it's very easy once you have the understanding of what the Tao is, for any religion to fall inside of it, for you to see the error of that religion and its wholeness, because it's simply trying to explain a thing that need not be explained, and it's doing it in a way, in a very bad way, oftentimes, that's going to create divisiveness where there need be none. But yeah, he does, like, very similar points. In the beginning, there was the Word, right? And when you open up the Tao of Te Ching, the first words you're going to read are, "In the beginning, there was the Tao," right? And I do think that, you know, these philosophies are core tenets of just being human, right? The experience that we've always had since we've been on this rock, right? The social creatures that we are, but at the same time, at the core of that being social creatures, of being pack animals like we are individuals first, right? That's maybe what separates humanity. I don't know. I haven't really thought deeply on that, but the fact that we have such individualism within our species does make us unique, I think.
You are God's temple and the Spirit of God dwells in you. The Logos in flesh is not limited to one man in history. It is the very life that flows through you and through me right now. Now here is where it gets really interesting. The Tao is literally translated as the way of life, the path that life flows through, like a...
Yeah, and to, like, Theo's point, like, I don't think, which I think cultures probably did intersect. Again, like, we are, you know, we're far removed from the days where we thought that, like, these cultures were completely isolated from each other. Like, they had sophisticated trade routes. Like, you know, like, definitely Muhammad had access to Jewish and Christian philosophy. And I think probably the same could be said for a lot of rabbis probably roaming around Jerusalem 2,000 years ago under the rule of Caesar. So, but I don't think you need that for them all to be speaking the same message. Again, it goes to the fundamental questions that we've asked as human beings since there have been human beings on this planet. Like, why are we here? Why are we? Why am I? Right? Why? It's a question that fuels us. And it's a question that fuels us to this day, however hundreds of millions of years later, as we sit here on YouTube arguing about the why of it all, right? Still. And probably we will be arguing about the why of it all 400 million years from now if we last that long. But the why of it all is just the Tao. And it doesn't need to be argued about, but we will.
River flowing naturally without resistance. And what did Jesus say? He said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." To call himself the way is a cosmic claim. He's pointing to the same principle that Taoism points to, the divine flow of reality itself. Greek thinkers like Heraclitus also spoke of the Logos. He said, Listening to the Logos rather than to me, it is wise to agree that all things are one.
Yeah, I do think it's like a very big misinterpretation, this logos, the word. We hear that, especially Bible-thumping Christians hear that, and they literally think like the Bible, the words written in the Bible. But I think it's speaking of something bigger. And word doesn't do it justice. But Tao does. Right? In the beginning there was word. In the beginning there was the word. What does that mean? Right? In the beginning there was a Bible? No. In the beginning there was whatever there was. We don't know what that is. Right? And even our scientific explanations makes room for that to this very day. Like, we only go to that certain limits that we can go to, but we recognize there was stuff before that. There maybe not time before that, but something. That was just the beginning of time where we can go to. It's that something that we try to define. And it's that something that Tao says we need not define. And it's that something that I don't need to label as a God. It's not existing outside of time and space. It's just the unknown. And I can live with that.
The Stoics were teaching that the Logos was the active reasoning.
And deep down, like, we all know that, right? Like, we all know that. So all of these different cultures, right? Like, what are they fundamentally? The cultures don't define them fundamentally. It is the fact that they are humans. The fact that they are not only connected to this planet, the planet that grew us, not born us, but grew us. But not just that planet, that Mother Earth, but the universe that born that planet. It's all connected. And that is divinity.
And also the divine fire that animated the universe. And a spark of that fire lives in you and me. Philo of Alexandria, a philosopher around the time of Jesus, described it as the bond of everything, holding all things together. And the Tao Te Ching describes the Tao as ungraspable, undefinable, yet ever-present. It nourishes without demanding, it governs without ruling. It is described as water, soft, yielding, yet unstoppable. And that's a big part of what Taoism is about, going with the flow and accepting the way things are. There is one part where Jesus reflects this, I think. It's when Jesus is in the Garden of Gethsemane before he is going to be killed on the cross, and he knew this was coming, and he prayed to God and said, "Is this the only way? Can it be done any other way?" But he said, regardless, your will be done. So even though he knew this horrific torture was about to be inflicted upon him, he still accepted God's will. And God's will could be seen as...
Yeah, it's just accepting the path forward, right? Like, and that's ultimately, as a Taoist, what you want to do, right? Like, say, I really, in the future, I'm going to be focusing on this presidential memorandum that came out a year ago, and the new the thing that the Trump administration just recently released. They're how they're going to be moving forward on domestic terrorism, and how that focus has shifted from actual domestic terrorists to American citizens with dissenting opinion against the administration. And it's a very terrifying time. And I'm going to be focusing on that moving forward through this channel. And I can't remember how I was going to tie that to get to what he just said. So let me go back a little bit. I just totally lost how I was going to tie that together.
He still accepted God's will.
All right.
And
yeah.
God's will could be seen.
So Taoism is simply like taking that first step toward reality. If the worst comes to the worst, right, and they start locking up leftists, if they start putting leftists to death, for treason. Then as a Taoist, as a leftist, I'm really hoping I can be the Taoist and walk forward with my head held high into that. And when Jesus does that, like when Jesus makes that decision, like is there no other way? Like he knows there has to be another way, but like for him there isn't. Like that's being on the path, that's knowing the path, seeing the path, understanding the path, and accepting the path. It's that, that moment in the movie Braveheart when, Mel Gibson, and yes, we all know what a shitty human being he is, but when he spits out the drug that would make him not feel the pain that's coming as much, when he spits that out, that's Taoism. That's knowing the path forward. It's a really good way of putting it, I think.
Seen as the flow of the Tao. This is Taoist surrender, aligning with the way, letting go of resistance, and going with the flow of reality. Some warn against linking the Tao and the Logos. Alan Watts even warned against it in one of his talks, and when he said that a Chinese translation of the Bible actually translated the word Logos for Tao. The problem here is that Taoists don't see the Tao as a kingly god, a god that commands or sets rules. But maybe the reason this problem arises is because we are trying to put words to something that we cannot put words to. Whether we call it a river that flows, or we personify it and say that it creates the world, maybe this is all just trying to add symbolism and words to something that is beyond our ability to even understand, as both the Bible and the Tao Te Ching both tell us that we'll never fully understand the truth of reality. We can call it the Logos, the Word, the Tao, the Way, but whatever we call it, it's pointing to something deeper, beyond the separation, to a deeper unity.
And I don't even necessarily agree with that about, we'll never understand reality. I think the problem is we do understand reality, but don't understand that we understand reality. I think that that's the problem, and I think that that's once you give up trying to understand reality because you already understand it, then you can be at peace.
When Jesus says, "I am the way," and Taoists point to the Tao as being the way, perhaps they're both pointing to the same underlying truth, the same living presence within all of us. A presence that we can't capture in words, but something we can only experience. So, is Jesus the Tao? Maybe the better question is, can we live as if the way flows through us and in us and as us? Because no matter what we call it, the invitation is the same: to trust the flow of reality, to surrender, and to live in oneness with all things.
Yeah, and that becomes like the fundamental flaw of Christianity, right? Because you put a name to it, because you put a face to it, you cannot be one with all things. Because that name and that face that you put to the Tao tells you that some of those things are unacceptable. And it's why, like, moving forward, I'm going to really try to approach my civil liberty activism in a different way, right? Because fundamentally, the racist is still my human brother, sharing an existence with me, right? The homophobe is still my human brother, sharing an existence with me. And in the past, I've approached these people in a way that I think Christians approach people, right? In a way that I think has been shown that really turns people off, and that is pointing that finger, it's like, chill, bro. Because fundamentally, even though people have really bad beliefs, They are sharing this existence with us, and we have to try to reach them. We have to try to understand them, because you're never going to reach them if you can't understand them. And you're definitely never going to reach them. You're definitely never going to understand them if you run away from them. And I'm not going to do that. And I think people would argue, well, you never did that before, Knock. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. And that's going to be a process. And we're going to see how that plays out. Like doing these live streams where I'm going to be talking to people again, that's going to be the true test again. Right? I think I have kind of borne that out. I was in a stream yesterday. You know, I've been in several streams, I'd say, since I quit drinking, to where it's been a really long time since I've lost my shit. You know, I still get animated. I can still have a heated conversation. But I think it's going to be a bit different this time, because I am a different person. I look at the world in a different way. I'm going to take one step forward instead of trying to leap or run. I'm just going to accept what is. I'm going to be happy with what comes, because that's the key to happiness, living in the now. So, with that being said, I'm going to end it a little early. I said it around 10 o'clock, 11 at the very latest. But, you know, I definitely wanted to start talking about that. Because I'll definitely, especially when I am having conversations with Christians, be mentioning Taoism a lot. Maybe. I do tend to focus on, and I think I should focus on just the non-believable beliefs that they have. Because I think if you start to crack that barrier, if you start to plant those seeds, eventually their logical minds are going to take over. Even if they'll never concede the credit where credit is due. So, yeah, I wanted to get that out there, start speaking about this a little bit. Although even to speak of the Tao, to try to explain what Taoism is, what the Tao is sacrilege. Sometimes it's necessary. Especially if you're coming from it from an atheistic point of view, like I do. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Anybody that's going to watch on the playback, hope you guys have an excellent day. I'll see you soon.